The day began like any other in Los Angeles, sunlight sliding off Pacific waves, the breeze brushing through the cliffs above Malibu, but for Brooke Logan, a gnawing unease shadowed her every step. Something felt wrong. Her instincts sharpened, as they always had when her family was in danger. She left her office without explanation, keys trembling in her hand, and drove west toward the coast, chasing a feeling she couldn't name. It wasn't logic. It was maternal intuition, an invisible thread pulling her towards something she didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Luna Nozawa was on the beach with little Hayes, Steffi, and Finn's son. Her smile was thin, her voice light as she offered the boy a game. Let's go find treasure. Hayes, trusting, took her hand, unaware of the chaos curling inside her. Luna's mind raced, haunted by weeks of confusion and quiet unraveling. She'd been spiraling for days, detached, fragile, caught in a storm of guilt and secrets that no one had seen coming. In her purse, hidden beneath makeup and tissues, was a gun. Not meant for harm, she told herself. Just protection. Just in case. But the weight of it grew heavier with every step she took toward the jagged rocks near the water's edge. Brooke parked and ran. She didn't question why. She only knew something was wrong. As she neared the cliffs, her eyes locked on the impossible. Luna, pale and trembling, her hand inside her bag. Hayes was inches away from the tide. The world stilled for a split second, then sped up in a blur of heartbeats and instinct. Luna drew the weapon. Her hands shook, her breath hitched. She wasn't pointing it at Hayes. Not exactly. But the moment was cracked wide open with threat and confusion. Brooke didn't hesitate. She shouted his name, Hayes, and lunged. In the instant the gun fired, she threw herself between the child and the barrel. The bullet struck her side. Blood bloomed through the fabric of her blouse as she collapsed on the sand. Hayes screamed. Luna dropped the gun. Her face contorted into silent horror. She fell to her knees, sobbing, hands shaking violently, the magnitude of what had just happened sinking in with every crashing wave. Brooke's eyes fluttered, pain ripping through her, but she stayed conscious, her hand gripping Hayes's tightly. Emergency sirens pierced the air. Someone had seen. Someone had called. Steffi arrived first, running across the dunes. The sight broke her. Her son safe, but Brooke, her lifelong rival and reluctant co-parent, bleeding into the shore for her child. Paramedics descended. Luna was taken into custody, unresisting, unblinking. Brooke was loaded into an ambulance, Hayes clutched tightly in Finn's arms, confused but unharmed. Ridge Forrester stood outside the emergency room, motionless, replaying the last words he'd said to Brooke in anger days before. Dismissive. Cold. Indifferent. Now he stood at the edge of losing her forever. As doctors rushed to stabilize her, he saw through every fight, every breakup, every moment he let his pride win. Her blood soaked through the hospital linen. She had thrown herself in front of a gun for a child who wasn't hers. That was Brooke. That had always been Brooke. The truth hit him with suffocating force. He'd never loved anyone the way he loved her. Not Taylor. Not anyone. Steffi sat in the waiting room in stunned silence. The woman she'd resented for decades, accused of stealing her father's affection, disrupting her mother's life, had just saved her son. The guilt gnawed at her, sharp and unrelenting. She thought of every insult, every accusation, every wall she'd built between them. Hayes kept asking, "Is Brooke okay?" Steffi could barely answer. She didn't know. And that terrified her more than anything. Luna was held in a sterile interrogation room, wrapped in a blanket. Her tears hadn't stopped. The gun wasn't registered. The motive was unclear. She told them she hadn't meant to hurt anyone. She didn't even remember pulling the trigger. She'd been unraveling for weeks and no one noticed. It wasn't just guilt over what happened with RJ. It was the pressure, the silence, the way no one truly knew what she was carrying. Now she faced charges. Possibly worse. And none of it would undo what she'd done. Brooke underwent surgery. The bullet had torn through her side, missing major organs by inches. She survived. When she woke, Ridge was beside her, his hand in hers. He told her the truth, how much he loved her, how wrong he had been. She didn't say anything. She just squeezed his hand. That was enough. The aftermath began. Ridge took a leave from Forrester to care for Brooke. He made her tea. He read to her. He sat with her in silence. Steffi came to the hospital every day, bringing flowers, food, notes from Hayes. She apologized. Brooke accepted it without spite. He's your world. Of course I protected him, she said. Steffi broke down. The war between them didn't matter anymore. Luna was released pending trial, but the public turned. Media headlines screamed about the shooting, the beach, the heroism of Brooke Logan. Luna became the face of instability and danger. She lost endorsements, clients, her job at Forrester. RJ tried to stand by her, but she pushed him away, too ashamed to let him see her break. She checked herself into a clinic. She wrote Brooke letters every day, never knowing if they'd be read. Brooke read them. Every one. She didn't hate Luna. She pitied her. She saw a young woman lost in pain, starved for help, buried in shame. Brooke had been there once, too. Not with a gun, not like this, but lost all the same. Weeks passed. Brooke healed slowly. The stitches faded. The nightmares didn't. Ridge stood by her, a changed man. Hope took over more at Logan Designs. Carter managed the press fallout. Steffi extended an olive branch that finally felt sincere. RJ visited Luna, read her poems, waited while she tried to rebuild herself from the ruins. Luna started therapy. She spoke in court. She took responsibility. The court showed leniency, but the guilt remained. And Brooke became something more. Not just a survivor, but a symbol. The woman who once was at the center of scandals, now the one who shielded a child from a bullet. The narrative shifted. The press called her the protector. But she didn't care about titles. She was just glad Hayes was safe. The shooting changed everything. It reset relationships, shattered old grudges, exposed hidden wounds. Ridge stopped running from love. Steffi stopped clinging to blame. Luna stopped pretending to be fine. Brooke stopped doubting her worth. But the biggest change was internal, how each person saw the others and themselves. Sacrifice has a cost. But sometimes, it's the only thing that heals what no words can. The beach wasn't just where blood was spilled. It was where truth finally surfaced, and redemption began, not just for Brooke, but for everyone whose lives her selfless act would forever reshape. The days after the beach shooting blurred into a strange rhythm. The Forrester estate was quieter than it had been in years. No dramatic walkouts, no shouting matches echoing through the halls. Just silence, thick with reflection. Ridge rarely left Brooke's side. He slept in the chair by her bed, refusing to let guilt or pride keep him from making things right. Every morning, he brought her coffee exactly the way she liked it, light cream, no sugar, and she looked at him not with resentment, but with the calm of someone who'd already forgiven him. Maybe she always had. Steffi, meanwhile, turned inward. She began writing letters. To Brooke, to her younger self, to Finn, even to her mother. She visited Brooke every evening, always bringing Hayes. The boy never forgot what Brooke did. He called her Angel Brooke now. The first time he said it, Steffi had to leave the room to cry. At Forrester Creations, things shifted. Hope took over more leadership responsibilities, guiding Logan Designs through a delicate rebranding effort that subtly honored Brooke's sacrifice without sensationalizing it. A limited Guardian capsule collection was released, soft whites, gold embroidery, delicate silhouettes that symbolized both strength and grace. The public response was overwhelming. Sales surged. But more importantly, something in the culture of the company changed. Empathy replaced rivalry. Vulnerability wasn't seen as weakness anymore. Luna, still in the clinic, watched everything unfold from a distance. She turned down interviews, declined media inquiries. She focused on therapy, journaling, and confronting the parts of herself she had hidden for too long. The clinic was quiet, and for the first time in her life, so was her mind. She wrote to Brooke again, not for forgiveness, not anymore, but to express what she never could out loud, that Brooke's courage had given her a second chance she didn't deserve. RJ visited often. At first, they just sat together. He brought her sketchbooks, music, photos from home. Luna was hesitant, ashamed. But RJ never pushed. He just waited. And slowly, she started to open up. One night, she admitted everything, not just the shooting, but what led up to it. The pressure, the isolation, the fear of never being enough in a world that demanded perfection. RJ didn't try to fix it. He just listened. And that was enough. Months passed. Brooke healed. Her scar faded, but the weight of that day never left her. She gave a single interview to Katie on Spencer TV. It wasn't about the drama. It was about the importance of listening to your instincts, of protecting what matters, of choosing grace over vengeance. Her words rippled beyond the fashion world. She became a quiet advocate for mental health, for mothers, for survivors. Luna was eventually released. She didn't return to Forrester. Not yet. She wasn't ready. Instead, she took a job designing for a small label in Santa Monica where anonymity allowed her space to rebuild. She and RJ remained close. Not romantic yet. Just real. Just safe. Steffi and Brooke continued to meet weekly, sometimes over coffee, sometimes just for walks along the beach, where it all happened. The first time they stood there together, Steffi whispered, "I used to wish you would disappear." Brooke looked at the ocean and said, "I know. So did I, sometimes." Then they laughed, tired but honest. And something broke open between them. Not friendship, not yet. But a ceasefire rooted in something deeper. Shared grief, shared love, shared growth. Ridge, transformed by watching Brooke's resilience, found himself changed too. He no longer fought the urge to protect his family. He embraced it. He apologized more. He argued less. He started sketching again, not for deadlines, but for joy. His latest work? A series titled Shelter, inspired by the moment Brooke shielded Hayes. Every line bore that memory, and every fabric choice was a prayer. And in the background of it all, the beach remained. Untouched and eternal. A reminder of the day everything fell apart and somehow came together. A place of violence and grace. The line in the sand where one woman made a choice that rippled through every soul around her. But stories like these don't end. They evolve. Because Luna's journey had just begun. She hadn't faced the full force of the public yet. There would be trials, not legal ones, but personal. Clients would whisper. Doors would stay shut. But others would open. And she would walk through them, slowly, honestly. Because Steffi still had to reckon with her guilt, not just over Brooke, but over every wall she'd built to protect herself that now felt unnecessary. Because Ridge had to earn back what he'd taken for granted too many times. And because Brooke, ever the center of storms, had finally become something else. Still, strong, steady. Not because she'd survived a gunshot, but because, this time, she didn't run. She stood. She shielded. She changed the course of everything. The waves would keep rolling. But the world of the bold and the beautiful had shifted. Not through scandal. Not through seduction. But through sacrifice. And what came after?